power is never handed over, it is seized. Loyalty is a mirage. Trust becomes a blade. These are the harsh realities that Niccolò Machiavelli revealed in The Prince, a book so merciless that it has molded empires, overthrown rulers, and created tyrants. This video is not meant for the fragile. It is for those who know the world is a war zone, and morality is a privilege only a few can afford. Human nature is not pure or gentle. It is greedy, manipulative, and dangerous. Machiavelli grasped this core reality better than anyone, and his words expose a world where trust equals weakness and doubt means survival. Across history, the pattern repeats without fail. Those who place faith in others eventually face betrayal. Julius Caesar trusted the loyalty of his senators, only to be stabbed 23 times by men he called friends. In business, partners who begin as allies often end as ruthless enemies once wealth and power enter the scene. Even in personal bonds, people will turn against one another when it benefits them. The truth is that everyone has a price, a limit where loyalty dissolves. Machiavelli shows us that fear is a far more dependable weapon than affection. People may hate you for making them afraid, but they will comply. Love can disappear overnight, but the memory of punishment endures forever. Study any successful ruler through history, from ancient emperors to modern CEOs, and you'll see this rule in action. They reward just enough to keep hope alive, but punish harshly enough to make rebellion impossible. The instant a leader reveals weakness, the wolves start to circle. This is not paranoia. It is simply the observation of how power truly operates in the real world. Every smiling subordinate, every eager assistant, every loyal follower, they are all calculating what you offer them and how fast they should leave when your value is gone. The experienced leader understands this and never drops their guard entirely. They know that trust should always remain conditional, that loyalty must be continually tested, and that no one should ever hold enough power to become a danger. This is not about cruelty. It is about staying alive in a world where weakness is always exploited. Those who succeed over time are not the most pleasant or trusting. They are the ones who understand human nature and act in line with it. They do not take betrayal personally because they expect it. They do not depend on gratitude because they know it fades quickly. Instead, they design relationships so that betrayal is too expensive and loyalty stays the safest choice. This is the unforgiving reality that Machiavelli forces us to face. Morality is a luxury that those in power cannot always afford. In the contest for power, the victors are those who see people as they truly are, not as they pretend to be. They understand that beneath every courteous exchange, every friendly act, every promise spoken, a calculation is being made about advantage and survival. The instant you forget this, you become exposed. The instant you trust without limits, you have already lost. This is not a bleak perspective. It is a realistic one, confirmed by thousands of years of human history. From royal palaces to corporate boardrooms, the rules never change. Those who flourish know that trust is a tool to handle with care, not a gift to hand out freely. They understand that everyone has a breaking point, and the secret to holding power is ensuring no one ever reaches theirs. This is the ruthless lesson Machiavelli teaches us. In a world where everyone looks after themselves, the only way to secure your position is to assume the worst about human nature and be quietly relieved when people prove you wrong rather than crushed when they prove you right. The deepest reality of power is this: betrayal is not a chance. It is an inevitable outcome. Every bond, every alliance, every vow carries inside it the seeds of its own collapse. The innocent believe in loyalty, in honor, in the purity of agreements. Yet history shows us time and again that these are illusions that shatter the moment real power is on the line. Machiavelli did not simply notice this truth. He turned it into a weapon. His writings expose the cold structure of betrayal, when to use it, how to execute it, and above all, why you must always strike first. Look at the ruthless math of power. Every individual around you, whether a trusted counselor, a business partner, or a close ally, is ultimately guided by self-interest. They remain beside you only as long as doing so benefits them. The instant that calculation changes, their loyalty disappears. This is not negativity. It is visible reality. The Medici, the Borgias, the great ruling families of history, they did not gain power through blind trust. They rose by understanding that in the race for dominance, hesitation leads to death. The weak wait for betrayal to reveal itself before they respond. They hold on to the hope that allies will stay faithful, that friends will remain steady, that subordinates will not overstep. This illusion has destroyed entire empires. The strong, however, recognize the signs long before the blade appears. They notice the quiet shift in loyalty, the silent gathering of power by those below them, the soft whispers of dissatisfaction, and when they do, they move fast, with precision, and without regret. There is a craft to strategic betrayal. It cannot be done carelessly, nor can it happen without calculation. The ruler who betrays too openly invites revolt. The leader who strikes without reason turns even loyal followers into enemies. The strategy is to make betrayal unavoidable, while making sure you are never the one who seems to have broken trust. This is why the great planners of history, figures like Caesar Borgia, Otto von Bismarck, or even certain modern corporate raiders, always made sure their betrayals appeared as necessity rather than cruelty. They shaped circumstances so their actions looked justified, even honorable. The modern world follows the same pattern. In business, executives are removed not when they fail, but when they become inconvenient. In politics, alliances change overnight based on polls and quiet negotiations. Even in personal relationships, loyalty survives only while the rewards exceed the cost. The message is unmistakable. If you do not control the story of betrayal, you will end up destroyed by it. Machiavelli's most lasting lesson was this: power is not about being loved or even feared. It is about being impossible to ignore. The leader who makes themselves essential, who ensures betrayal comes at too high a price, is the one who endures. But even that is not sufficient. No position is ever completely safe. The moment you think you are secure is the moment your collapse begins. This is why the truly powerful do not wait for betrayal. They anticipate it. They eliminate dangers before those dangers can move. They reward loyalty just enough to keep it functional, but never enough to let it become lazy. They know that trust is not a connection, but a restraint, one that must be gripped tightly and loosened only when required. The decision is harsh, yet simple. You are either the one who commands power or the one who is destroyed by it. There is no neutral space. The craft of strategic betrayal is not about cruelty. It is about endurance. And in the end, endurance is the only contest that matters. Strike first or be struck. There are no other choices. Power does not answer to please. It responds only to force. This is the harsh reality that divides masters from servants. Every gesture of mercy, every show of compassion, every second of hesitation creates an opening your enemies will exploit without mercy. Machiavelli understood what many modern leaders have forgotten. Fear is the only currency that never loses value. History's greatest conquerors built empires not through kindness, but through terror. Genghis Khan did not unite the steppes by being reasonable. He reduced cities to ashes until surrender became the sole choice. The Roman Empire did not preserve order through polite appeals. They nailed rebels along roads as warnings. Even today, the most effective corporate takeovers are not friendly mergers. They are ruthless acquisitions where resistance becomes unthinkable. The deadly error of weak leaders is believing kindness creates loyalty. It does not. Kindness is seen for what it truly is, a signal of uncertainty, an admission that you want to be liked. The moment subordinates sense this desire, they start pushing limits. First through minor defiance, then through direct challenges to your authority. By the time you recognize it, it is already too late. You are bargaining from weakness instead of commanding from strength. Real power works differently. It sets absolute consequences from the start. It makes an example of the first person who steps out of line, not merely punishing them, but destroying them in a way that reverberates through the entire system. One public execution outweighs 1,000 private warnings. When people see what happens to those who challenge authority, the need for constant discipline vanishes. The rules enforce themselves. This is not theory. It is visible reality. Look at any high-performing organization, military unit, or successful regime. The shared factor is not comfort or goodwill. It is clear, relentless standards applied without exception. The Marine Corps does not create elite fighters through agreement. They dismantle recruits until only total obedience remains. Leading hedge funds do not excuse poor results. They remove traitors the moment they turn into risks. The modern world masks this truth with ideas like emotional intelligence and servant leadership. Yet the core mechanics have not changed. People follow strength, not morality. They respect power, not fairness. And they comply not because they choose to, but because they have no alternative. The lesson is straightforward but unsettling. If your authority relies on being liked, you have already failed. True control comes from making defiance unimaginable. Not through loud threats, but through proven consequences. Not through rage, but through steady, deliberate enforcement of absolute standards. Power is not claimed, it is shown, and nothing shows it more clearly than the remains of those who dared to oppose it. The decision is yours. Rule through fear of consequences or plead for cooperation that will never arrive. There is no third path. Loyalty does not exist. It is a soothing illusion, a lie the weak repeat to comfort themselves. A story that collapses the moment real power enters the picture. Machiavelli saw through this lie with merciless clarity. All loyalty is temporary, all devotion conditional, and every alliance comes with an expiration date. The ruler who forgets this truth signs their own death sentence. History's most violent lessons prove this beyond argument. Brutus did not betray Caesar because he was uniquely corrupt. He acted because the balance of power had shifted. Thomas Cromwell did not turn against Henry VII out of personal hatred. He did it because survival required it, even in modern corporations. Executives do not remove CEOs because they lack loyalty. They do it because the opening appears. The pattern never shifts. When the cost of loyalty exceeds its rewards, betrayal becomes. The dangerous illusion is believing true loyalty can be created through generosity or shared history. This is false. No amount of past favors can outweigh present advantage. The Roman emperors learned this through poison and blades. No matter how many victories a general secured, how much wealth a senator received, or how many pledges were exchanged, the result was always identical. When power came within reach, blood followed. Modern leaders repeat the same deadly mistake. They believe their charm or vision will shield them. They trust handshakes and personal bonds. Then arrives the boardroom revolt, the hostile acquisition, the political knife in the back, always defended later with moral justifications, yet always driven by the same cold arithmetic of power. The answer is not paranoia, it is structure. Skilled rulers organize power so betrayal cannot succeed, not because of kindness, but because the system prevents it. They ensure no subordinate gathers enough influence to threaten them. They establish rival centers of power that neutralize each other. They make the price of betrayal disastrous while keeping the rewards of loyalty just enough. This is why the Medici endured while their rivals vanished, why some corporate dynasties survive beyond their creators while others collapse overnight. Not because they were loved, but because they designed systems where disloyalty meant self-destruction. The lesson is harsh but necessary. You cannot trust people. You can only trust structures. Create systems where betrayal cannot win, not because people will not try, but because your systems make failure inevitable. Reward just enough to maintain control, but never enough to create challengers. And when someone tests the limits, as they always will, make their destruction so absolute that it serves as a lesson for generations. Loyalty is the fiction the powerful tell the weak to keep them submissive. True power comes from making defiance impossible. The choice is yours. Construct systems that enforce obedience, or become another warning about misplaced trust. History remembers only the victors, and victors understand that in the game of power, the only true sin is naivety. Every reign reaches a point where the leader must choose between weakness and survival. This is the ultimate test of authority, the critical moment when morality becomes irrelevant and only outcomes matter. Machiavelli's greatest lesson was this: the difference between kings and corpses is the willingness to act first. History's most effective rulers shared one quality. They knew the exact instant when mercy turned into suicide. Augustus did not hesitate to eliminate Mark Antony when their alliance had outlived its value. Catherine the Great did not flinch at deposing and later executing her own husband to secure the Russian throne. In modern times, corporate raiders do not apologize for dismantling companies. They act because hesitation costs billions. The weak view these acts as betrayal. The strong see them as necessities. There is no morality in power, only consequences. When a subordinate gains too much influence, when an ally's interests diverge, when a partner becomes more burden than asset, these are not moments for negotiation. They are death sentences awaiting execution. The ruler who delays out of sentimentality or false loyalty signs their own defeat. Consider the alternative. Leaders who failed this test. Nicias of Athens hesitated in Sicily and watched his army annihilated. The final Romanovs showed mercy to revolutionaries and were executed in a cellar. CEOs who hesitate to remove failing executives watch their companies collapse. The pattern never shifts. Power resides with those willing to do what others refuse. Modern leaders fail because they try to balance morality with authority. This is impossible. Power exists beyond good and evil. It moves on its own primal logic, where only strength matters. The boardroom, the political arena, the battlefield, all follow the same rules. Victors are not those with noble intentions, but those who grasp the brutality of human nature most clearly. Machiavelli's final lesson is the most crucial. Sentimentality is a luxury for the powerless. When your position is at risk, when your authority is challenged, when survival hangs in the balance, you must act without hesitation, without remorse, and without warning. Not because you desire to, but because history proves the fate of those who do not. Power goes to those who act while others debate. The throne belongs to whoever seizes it first. The choice was never between right and wrong, only between winning and dying. In this game, there are no rewards for good intentions.